Population collapse is one of the biggest threats to the future of human civilization. And that is what is going on right now. People have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse.
What do you think is the biggest threat to mankind right now?
I'd say the biggest threat right now is population collapse. The super low birth rate.
Really?
Yeah.
Over like nuclear war, natural disaster?
Don't we have an overpopulation problem?
No, we have an underpopulation problem.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
So this is the most commonly misunderstood situation.
Yeah, they definitely push that we have a overpopulation
Yeah, why is
problem.
No, I don't know. It's just like, I think it's like, this is a holdover from like, I don't know, the 70s or something, you know? So there was a huge baby boom, like where people did have a ton of kids after World War II. But then the U.S. has actually been the birth rate in the U.S. has been below replacement rate since like 71 or 72.
In the U.S.,
like 50 years.
How
50
about
years,
other
the U.S. has
countries,
been below replacement rate.
I know U.S., but how about other countries?
Well, like China's got a huge population collapse problem.
Really?
Yeah.
China, you actually get penalized if you have more than one kid.
No,
Are you being serious?
No,
they cut that off.
No, see, this is like, so part of it is just like, we're operating on things that were true in the past, but are no longer true. So China did have a one-child policy, but like about 10 years ago, they changed it to a two-child policy. And then a few years ago, they changed it to a three-child policy, and birth rate kept plummeting the whole time.
Wow, that is a very common misconception. I would have
It's
never.
a very common
right.
misconception. Like, what we face is population collapse.
Huh.
Collapse. Like, people have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse.
What are we trending
Japan
at?
is pretty far along in that. Like, Japan actually lost like 600,000, went down by 600,000 people last year.
What about the U.S.? We got an increase, right?
Yeah, what I'm saying is the U.S. has been below replacement rate for 50 years. The only
That's
reason
so
the
nuts.
population has increased
Like
is
yearly, you're
Since
saying.
the 70s.
Yeah, since the early 70s, since like 71, 72.
So why are we spewed with all this BS that, we're overpopulating, but the population's growing, right?
No, it's not. So, I mean, I should say the like lifespan is increasing. People are living longer. That's the only reason why the population of Earth isn't plummeting, but it will plummet. So, just like one metric to track is the ratio of adult diapers to baby diapers. Like, at what point does a country have more adult diapers than baby diapers? And like Japan went past that point over 10 years ago, I believe.
Whoa.
What do you think happens in like the future then? What's your kind of thought on that?
Well, I think we've got to turn this around. We've got to have at least replacement rate, if not more, on the baby front. And by the way, these are not matters that are subjective. You can just literally look at the birth rate.
Yeah.
It's like, it's an objective number. Like how many babies were born. It's like they recorded this information, so.
How detrimental is that? Like, what's that? If it keeps trending this way,
Well, we've become
how long do we
extinct
have
eventually.
before it's like, I guess, extinct?
Well, it's a low birth rate is a slow death for a civilization. It's not a fast death.
Yeah, we're chilling for a bit.
Yeah. I mean, you're cruising. It's just like the average age just starts drifting up, and then, basically civilization will die with a whimper in adult diapers. Kind of sucks as it's like anticlimactic. It's not exactly. I mean, frankly, if you say, given the choice, like, I'd rather civilization went out with a bang than a whimper in adult diapers.
Yeah.
What's a bang?
Bang would be World War III. The population decline problem, I think, is possibly the biggest risk to civilization. It's certainly one of the biggest risks. First of all, I think people really need to. A lot of people think that there's too many humans on the planet and the planet can't sustain this number of humans. This is absolutely not true. We could double the population without any meaningful damage to the environment. So Earth, you can fit all the humans on Earth in the city of New York. That's the cross-sectional area of humans. They literally fit in the city of New York on one floor. You don't even need high rises. And if you're on a plane flight and you look down and you say, what percentage of the time if I were to drop a ball, where that ball would hit a person? Basically zero. Even in a city like LA, which you think, oh, that's a crowded city, but so like looking at from above, what's the cross-sectional area of humans relative to the rest of the ground, and it's much less than 1% even in LA. So we sort of, if you're in a big city environment and you see a lot of people, you sort of, oh, there must be, you sort of extrapolate that to everywhere, but it's actually very rare to see a concentration of humans. So humans, the Earth is very sparsely populated with humans. There's not enough humans, far from being too many, and I think people are still sort of operating on the assumption that population is just growing like crazy, when in fact the opposite is occurring.
Like the thing that tends to happen is like once the birth rate starts going down, it seems to accelerate in a downward trajectory. Mm-hmm. Like Japan is a leading indicator here. It's insane.
They're about to collapse.
No,
population
like
collapse.
nutty. They lost 600,000 people last year. That negative 600,000 last year. And Japan is like pretty close to being the most, like their life expectancy is like 85. Mm-hmm. So, like that's the only thing. That was what was keeping the population plummeting before. But now, despite having like the world's longest lifespan, they're still losing population.
Oh wow!
It's saying something.
Yeah, it's saying something.
So,
it seems to me the rate of that decline is such one that's going to be not really able to be turned around. We kind of got to plan for what we do in spite of it happening. Yeah, like.
Well, if that trend continues, Japan's just going to flat out disappear, as will most countries in the world. So. It's not like, I'm just saying if that trend continues, hopefully it doesn't. Yeah, anyway, yeah, it's like if people like live in some bustling city, they think humans must be everywhere. But actually, there are very few cities, like no place in America has the density of Manhattan. And then even if you've got like a sort of what seems like a dense city like LA, the actual cross-sectional area that's human is small, like less than 1% of the area is human. So that means that if you drop to cannibal, that doesn't bounce too much. The probability of hitting a human is extremely low.
Wow.
Yeah, so most people in the world are operating under the false impression that there are too many people. This is not true. Earth could maintain a population many times the current level. And the birth rate has been dropping like crazy. And unfortunately, like we have these like ridiculous population estimates from the UN that need to be updated because they just don't make any sense. Really, you can just look at, say, what was the birth rate last year, how many kids were born, multiply that by the life expectancy, and say, okay, that's how many people will be alive, in the future. And then say, is the trend for birth rate positive or negative? It's negative. So that's the best case, unless something changes with the birth rate. You can look at, take Japan, for example. I think, I'm just going off memory here, but I think the population is roughly 110 million. But last year, if you take the number of children born times the life expectancy, which is 85 years, it's very impressive life expectancy, then Japan would have, I think, around 68 million people, roughly half of the current population. That does not tell the full story, because those that you would have an upside-down demographic pyramid. You already have an upside-down demographic pyramid where, a lot of old people, very few young people. Well, currently we're not, because of just generally low birth rates almost worldwide, civilization is not headed to have a population that is an order of magnitude greater than where we're currently. We're currently headed towards a population decline. And this is almost everywhere in the world. It basically seems as though as soon as you have like urbanization and education beyond a certain level and income beyond a certain level, birth rates plummet. And so as countries get wealthier, their birth rates plummet. It's somewhat counterintuitive, because people will say like, well, it's too expensive to have a baby. Nope, the wealthier you are, the fewer kids you have. The more educated you are, the fewer kids you have. So it's the inverse. If life was a video game, what would be the review? And it's like, well, the graphics are incredible. The plot is confusing. The respawn takes a long time. You know, that's a video game. That's life. I mean, if life was a video game, respawn takes 20 years to spawn a human being and have them be fully conscious. I'm worried about the birth rate, which you alluded to earlier. The contrary to, like, most people think we have like too many people on the planet, but actually this is an outdated view. This is assuming that AI is fine, assuming that there's a benevolent future with AI. I think that the biggest problem the world will face in 20 years is population collapse. Collapse. I want to emphasize this. The biggest issue in 20 years will be population collapse. Not explosion, collapse. It's very easy to see what the world will look like in 20 years because humans have a 20-year boot sequence. So like you say, okay, well, who was born last year? Okay, now you know what the world looked like in 20 years. It's that easy. It is a prevalent mind virus and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
Also, not having enough kids, right?
Yeah, I think most people, if you just simply look at the birth rate statistics, you can tell what the future is going to be like because you can see how many children were born last year. And then you could say, like, is the birth rate trending down or up? And it's been trending down basically almost everywhere. So if you look at the birth rate last year, you know how many adults there will be in 20 years because that's how many babies were born. The trend is, like, you don't have to be some master statistician or something like that. You can just look at kids born last year trending to well below replacement rate. And a lot of countries have been well below replacement rate for a long time.
Well, the concern is that if you have kids, then they'll contribute to climate change and then they'll kill the Earth, right? That's the leftist concern, is that we're overpopulating the Earth and that we're going to kill it. Are you trying to overpopulate the Earth so that we can go to Mars and take over Mars?
The Earth is far from overpopulated.
Is this a deliberate strategy?
The Earth is far from overpopulated. Far from overpopulated.
By the way, when people say that Earth is being overpopulated,
this is not true.
It's like, look out the window, and I know you and I have had this conversation that you're more worried about underpopulation of planet.
Oh, yeah. Earth is going to face a massive population collapse over the next 20, 30 years. Massive.
Yeah.
And this is definitely, will civilization, the question of, like, is civilization going to die with a bang or a whimper? This would definitely be dying with a whimper.
Yeah, we need.
The birth rate is very low.
Yeah, it's been dropping, right? It used to be 5-6 children per family. Globally, it's like 2.4. In the U.S., it's below replacement levels. In most of Europe, Russia, Japan, Korea, Singapore, it's well below replacement. But I would still say. When we spoke last about this, you're still a sort of abundance optimist that the world is getting better on many levels. Yeah, I think the world is generally getting better. I have some concerns about advanced AI, like that's a risk. If I say like existential risks, I'd say super advanced AI is one. Mm-hmm. And probably the second biggest risk after that is population collapse. Not asteroid impact? No. The population collapse. The thing about demographics and birth rate is you know what's going to happen in 20 years because you know the birth rate last year. Yeah. It takes like 20 years for a person to grow up. Yeah. So we know what the adult population is going to be 20 years from now because we know what kids were born last year. I think we have a serious issue with population collapse. That's far bigger than people realize. This the social networks and everything. The social support networks were not really set up for a high ratio of retirees to workers. So then. Well, thank God we got robots coming in. Yeah, the robots, exactly. We'll need those robots, but you don't want to have the youth effectively enslaved to take care of the elderly. Yeah. Which is what would kind of happen if you have an upside down demographic pyramid.
There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my word.
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry.
You could start a war or something. It's like whatever drives the clicks, it will do.
It's too late.
I mean, humans have been the smartest creature on Earth for a long time, and that is going to change with what's typically called artificial general intelligence. So this is, say, an AI that is smarter than a human in every way. Could even simulate a human. This is something we should be concerned about. I think there should be government oversight of AI developments, especially super advanced AI. It's just, this is anything that is a potential danger to the public. We generally agree that this should have government oversight to ensure that the public safety is taken care of.
Are people more inclined to listen today? It seems like an issue that's brought up more often over the last few years than it was maybe 5-10 years ago. It seemed like science fiction.
Maybe they will. So far they haven't. I think people don't, normally the way that regulations work is very slow. It's very slow indeed. So usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. If you look at, say, automotive regulations, how long did it take for seatbelts to be implemented, to be required? After many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late.
Out of control countdown?
Out of control, yeah. People call it the singularity. And that's probably a good way to think about it. It's a singularity. It's hard to predict, like a black hole, what happens past the event horizon.
Right. So once it's implemented, it's very different because it will be able to...
Once the genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen?
And it will be able to improve itself.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, with respect to AI and robotics, I always approach these things with some trepidation because I certainly do not want to play a hand in anything that could potentially be harmful to humanity. Now, humanoid robots, they're clearly happening. I mean, you look at like Boston Dynamics, their demonstrations are better every year. So there will be humanoid robots. I mean, the rate of advancement of AI is very rapid. Even if Tesla stopped doing AI, I think we're still on a track to develop artificial general intelligence, meaning intelligence smarter than the smartest human.
I think generally people underestimate the capability of AI. They sort of think like it's a smart human, but it's really much. It's going to be much more than that. It'll be much smarter than the smartest human. Yeah. It'll be like, can a chimpanzee really understand humans? Not really. We just seem like strange aliens. They mostly just care about other chimpanzees, and this will be how it is, more or less, in a relative. In fact, if the difference is only that small, that would be amazing. Probably it's much greater. Assuming a benign scenario with AI, we will just be too slow. To something, let's say, a computer that has like an exaflop of, many exaflops of compute capability, a millisecond is an eternity, and to us, it's nothing. So, I always think like human speech to a computer will sound like very slow tonal wheezing. It's kind of like whale sounds.
What are you most worried about going wrong?
Well, like I said, AI and robotics will bring out what might be termed the age of abundance. Other people have used this word, and that this is my prediction. There'll be an age of abundance for everyone. I guess there's the dangers would be the artificial general intelligence or digital superintelligence decouples from a collective human will and goes in a direction that for some reason we don't like, of whatever direction it might go.
What's the biggest threat to humanity's future or something? Well, AI is certainly one of the biggest risks. It could be the biggest risk.
People worry a lot about this today are those people, I call them called college smartness. People like us, street smart, we never scared of that. We think it's a great fun and we want to change ourselves to embrace it.
I don't know, man, that's like famous last words. Let me tell you, AI is, you look at sort of the rate of advancement, just in general, the rate of advancement of computers is insane. Like a good example would be video games. If you go back 40 years ago, 50 years ago maybe, you had Pong. That was just two rectangles and a square. Now you've got photorealistic real-time simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, these games will be indistinguishable from reality. You will not be able to tell the difference. Either that or civilization will end. Those are the two options.
I made this comment some years ago, but it feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI, effectively. We are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. But the AI is informed, strangely, by the human limbic system. It is, in large part, our id writ large.
How so?
We mentioned all those things, the sort of primal drives.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the things that we like and hate and fear. They're all there on the internet. They're a projection of our limbic system.
Digital superintelligence would also be potentially a public safety risk, and so I think it's very important for regulators to keep an eye on that.
Who should own the data by then?
I think everyone should own their own data. Like individuals should own their data. And it certainly shouldn't be tricked by some terms and conditions of a website and suddenly you don't own your data. That's crazy. But I think it's just, like we wouldn't let people develop a nuclear bomb in the backyard just for the hell of it, That seems crazy. So digital superintelligence, I think, has the potential to be more dangerous than a nuclear bomb. So yeah, we should somebody should be keeping an eye. We can't have the inmates running the asylum here.
Well, computers actually are already much smarter than people on so many dimensions. We just keep moving the goalposts. So we used to think, like, for example, being good at chess was an example of a smart human. And then Kasparov was crushed by Deep Blue in '97. That was a long time ago. 22 years. Right now your cell phone could crush the world champion at chess. Literally. Go used to be thought of as something that humans were better at than computers. Then Lisa Dahl was beaten 4-1
by AlphaZero. Then a new version of AlphaZero, I should say AlphaGo. AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol 4-1. Then there's AlphaZero. AlphaZero crushed AlphaGo 100-0. Now it's just pointless because it just keeps playing itself. Humans are trying to play a computer Go is like trying to fight Zeus. It's not going to work. Hopeless. We're hopelessly inadequate.
We're effectively a cyborg right now, where your phone or computer is an extension of yourself, but your input is bounded by the screen, and your output is bounded by your thumbs or fingers. So, effectively, over time, we would drift away from machine intelligence. Have a high bandwidth neural interface, then we can solve the I/O problem and go along for the ride symbiotically. Just as our cortex and our limbic system are quite happy together, and I've not met anyone who wants to delete their cortex or their limbic system.
Well, I mean, you could argue that any group of people, like a company, is essentially a cybernetic collective of people and machines. That's what a company is. And then there's different levels of complexity in the way these companies are formed. And then there's this like a collective AI in the Google search, where we're all sort of plugged in as like nodes on the network, like leaves on a big tree. And we're all feeding this network without questions and answers. We're all collectively programming the AI, and Google plus all the humans that connect to it are one giant cybernetic collective. This is also true of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these social networks. They're giant cybernetic collectives.
Humans and electronics all interfacing and constantly connected.
Yes. Constantly.
At Google, where people, at least one engineer, thought that what was happening in terms of their AI machinery was closer to human thought than had been seen before, and quite worrying. It had a personality. Is that something that you think about at all, or you worry about?
I think we should be concerned about AI, and I said for a long time that I think there ought to be an AI regulatory agency that oversees artificial intelligence for the public good. And I think just as there's anything where there is a risk to the public, whether that's the Food and Drug Administration or Federal Aviation Administration, Federal Communications Commission, where there is a public risk or public good at stake, it's good to have sort of a government referee and a regulatory body, and I think we should have that for AI, and we don't currently.
Okay, well, let me tell you, my view on AI is essentially you can view the advancement of AI as solving things with increasing degrees of freedom. So the thing with the most degrees of freedom is reality. But AI has steadily advanced, solving things that have more and more degrees of freedom. So obviously, something like checkers was very easy to solve. That we could solve with classical software, classical computing, not really all that challenging. And in fact, there is a complete solution for checkers, meaning it is literally impossible. Every version of checkers is known. And then there's chess, which it had many more degrees of freedom than checkers, many orders of magnitude more than checkers, but still really, I would say, a low order of magnitude, a low degree of freedom game. Then there's Go, which had many orders of magnitude more degrees of freedom than chess.
So it's really just stepping through orders of magnitude of degrees of freedom. This is the way to, I think, view the advancement of intelligence.
Yeah.
It's really going to get to the point where it just can completely simulate a person in every way possible, like many people simultaneously. In fact, I mean, obviously there's a strong argument we're in a simulation right now. It sort of reminds me of that joke of like, if life was a video game, what would be the review? It's like, well, the graphics are incredible. The plot is confusing. The respawn takes a long time. That's a video game. That's life. If life was a video game.
How much do you see artificial intelligence coming into the workplace?
Well, first of all, I think on the artificial intelligence front, I have exposure to the very most cutting edge AI, and I think people should be really concerned about it. I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react, because it seems so ethereal. I think we should be really concerned about AI, and I think we should. AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive, because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it's too late. Normally the way regulations are set up is that a whole bunch of bad things happen. There's a public outcry. And then after many years, a regulatory agency is set up to regulate that industry. There's a bunch of opposition from companies who don't like being told what to do by regulators. Anyway, it takes forever. That in the past has been bad, but not something which represented a fundamental risk to the existence of civilization. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization, in a way that car accidents, airplane crashes, faulty drugs, or bad food were not. They were harmful to a set of individuals within society, of course, but they were not harmful to society as a whole. AI is a fundamental existential risk for human civilization.
Yeah, I think machines will. Well, my views on AI, I've spoken a lot about this. AI will be able to do everything better than human over time, everything.